This video is the third in a series of videos discussing placing calculated controls such as totals, average, and counts in forms and subforms. So in this third video, I want to discuss placing the results from calculated controls that are currently in subforms and taking those values and then transferring them into a main form. Here we have an example of a main form with a subform. And currently, the subform has the calculated controls of count, average, and total. What my goal here in this video is to show you how to take the values of these three calculated controls and actually have them show in the main form. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and close this main form, and I'm going to go to my subform and go into design view of it. And here I have count, average, and total. Now I can have a situation where I show the count, average, and total in the subform and the main form, or I can have the situation where I show the count, average, and total in this that are in the subform but not showing, and have those values instead show up in the main form. So to do that, I'm going to first show you about showing you the values in the subform and in the main form. And then I'm going to show you how to make it so that they only show up in the main form. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to click here, and I'm going to give these fields, these calculated controls, different names than text 28, which is kind of boring. So I'm going to say here count, CNT for count, and here I might say AVG cost, and here I think I'll say tot cost. So I've just given those some prettier names, and it'll just be easier for referring to them in a few moments when I'm going to try to put the values in the main form. So I'll go ahead and save those changes, and then I will go ahead and I will close out of this form, and I will go back to my main form and go into design view. And again, our calculated controls are here, but I want to have calculated controls in the main form, as I've said before. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to insert unbound fields. To do that, I'm going to insert text boxes here. So first would be for the count, and then I'll do one for the average, and I'll do one for the total. Okay, so each one of these I will use for our calculated controls. So here I'm going to change the label to count. This one I'm going to change the label to average. And this one I'm going to change to total. Now if you go and you look at the form view of this form, you will see that these unbound fields have nothing in them currently. They just have a label with an empty box here, count, empty box, average, empty box, and total, empty box. We need to place something in each one of these text boxes in order for it to show the values from these particular calculated controls. So I'm going to go into Design View again. And in order to explain what I need to explain about how to put the values in these boxes, I'm going to first refer you back to the names of the values that we gave each one of these text boxes. Refer you back to the names of each one of these text boxes. Okay. So here I said the name was count. This one is AVG cost, and this one is tote cost. Okay, and that's important for being able to place the reference to these values, or this, the value that goes in to these text boxes. Okay. So to begin, I'll start with this first text box, count. And once again, I'll remind you that in this subform, we call this text box CNT for count. So I will go up here to the control source because I'm referring to this particular text box, and that's where I want the value for the count to show up. So I'm going to say equals, and then I'm going to say form. And what that means is I'm saying that I want to refer to something in this form. Then I'm going to use an exclamation point, and that just is a separator so that it knows to go and look for the next thing. And the next thing that I want to look for is this particular control, subform control. And the name of this particular subform control is form orders subform. Okay? So then finally, within the forms orders subform, I want to refer specifically to this count text box. So I am going to say exclamation point, bracket, CNT, end bracket, and press enter. Okay? So to review, if we look at this, here this says form, which means I want to refer to something within this form. Then it says exclamation point. Okay, here I want to refer to something inside of the order subform, this subform. And then here it says I want to specifically refer to this field right here, CNT. And if we go and we click on Home and we click on View, we will go into Form View, and you can see that in fact the count from the subform is the same in the made form. Here it's 3, here it's 3. Now what I want to do is I want to go back and put the average and the total in, just like I did for count. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Design View, and I'm going to go here to Average Cost, and I'm going to go up here and just double check the name of my field just to make sure, and it says AVG Cost. So I'm going to come down here to this field here, and I want to enter now the value that would appear here. And to do that, I need to type in the reference information so that Access knows to go back to here to look to see what the value is that is currently displayed. So I will go ahead and say equals, and I will say form, and then I'll say exclamation point. And again, I want to say form orders subform because I am wanting to refer to that particular subform control. And then I'm going to say exclamation point, and I'm going to say right bracket, and I'm going to say AVG cost because that's the name of the field from my subform that I want to refer to, and then I'll press enter. And I'll go ahead and look to see what the name here is. I'll remind myself what the name here is of this field, and then I'll come down here. It says that it's total cost. Then I'll come down here and I'll refer here to this text box, and then I will come up here to control source for that text box, and I will type in equals form exclamation point, and again I'll say form orders subform because that's the name of this subform control, and then I will press the exclamation point, and then I will put a left bracket to indicate the name, that it's the beginning of the name of the field, and I'll say tote cost. Now when I go into form view, I should see that the value from the average for the cost that shows up in the subform should also show up here. And again, here to here. Total here, total here. Now the difference is that I didn't format these two fields to show currency values. So that's why it looks a little bit different, but the values themselves are the same. So just for closure, we'll go ahead and change the formatting for those two fields so that they can look like currency. And I'll go back and I'll show you what they look like being formatted for currency. It's a little slow. And there we go. It's formatted just like that. And if we go from record to record, you should see each one of those. Now here we have zeros because there's nothing there. And zeros again. Okay? But where there are records, it does show the calculated control values. So to finish this video, I want to show you what you would do to not have these values show, but they would show here. To do that, I'm going to close this particular form, and I've made changes to it, and so I will say yes, I'm going to save those changes, and I'm going to go over here to my subform, and I'm going to go into design view of my subform. And now for making it so that this particular area doesn't show, I can click here, come over here to my property sheet where it says visible, and click here, click, and say no. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, say yes, I'm going to save it. Then I'll open my calculated controls form that I was using, and now these do not show. And that is the end of showing you how to make calculated controls show up in your main form, and the end of this video series. Thank you.